Hi there guys, welcome back to the 8 points. So I just wanted to spend some time today going through all of the various publications that have been brought out for Warcry so far. There's actually 9 books to date, or 8 books if you don't include Catacombs, which is only available in the Catacombs box. And what I wanted to try and do is mainly for new players to give a flavour of what all of this stuff means. And if you're going to start out with Warcry, if you're new to it and you're thinking about getting into it, what you need, what you don't need, and various levels by which you can get into it. So I've collected these books into 3 main sections. There's Core Rules, which is the core book in Catacombs. There is Expanding the Gameplay, which is the 2 Tome of Champions books, and Monsters and Mercenaries. And then there's Further Expanding Your Warbands, which is our 4 Grand Alliance books. So to give a brief summary, if you've got the core book and or Catacombs, these are just going to teach you the rules of the game and some gameplay elements such as campaigns and that kind of thing. So that's going to give you that information. What Tome of Champions books and Monsters and Mercenaries is going to give you further campaigns to play and new ways to play the game, as well as a few rules updates and a few rules for substituting things like terrain and that kind of thing. So these books rely heavily on terrain that has come out for the core box that came out originally, and obviously the Catacombs terrain as well. This stuff will give you more rules on how to add and use your own terrain and that kind of thing. And then these books mainly are to give you an expansion to warbands from the original Age of Sigmar range. So for example, I've just fallen onto the Bone Splitters page. So when the Bone Splitters came out, originally there was a card pack for them, and that featured roughly half of the cards that are available in the book now. So effectively, those cards aren't redundant because none of the values have changed or anything like that, but the warband itself has been expanded upon heavily. What these books also do is they replace or update a little bit of information from Monsters and Mercenaries. So Monsters and Mercenaries about using models from other warbands and that kind of thing, and other cards that weren't originally included in the card packs and getting them added to your warband. These books go some way to expanding these warbands enough to make this less required. So if you're going to play, you need this as a bare minimum, and you need either a warband with some cards or models with one of these Grand Alliance books, of which there is 4. One for Chaos, Order, Destruction and Death. Okay, so that's a brief summary on all of those different publications. So if you are in the early stages of Warcry, or you haven't even started and you're thinking about getting into it, what out of this lot do you need? And where would I personally start from? So obviously that's hypothetical because, you know, I've collected all of this stuff. I've been I've collected Warcry from day one, and I've had every single release. So every book, card pack, warband box, everything that's come out, I own. So just before we carry on, I realised in the edit there's a couple of occasions coming up where I say core book instead of core box. You'll be able to recognise when they are, and you will agree with me that I'm a total muppet when I do it. It's just a little slip of the tongue. Anyway, on with the video. Okay, so from a bare minimum, you need to start with the core book. Now this, if you buy it from Games Workshop, is £25, or if you got it from Element Games or any of those other discounted retailers in the UK, or I'm assuming that there's those kinds of retailers throughout the world. You can get a bit of a discount, but the best place to look for this right now is on eBay, because you can pick these books up for about 12 quid brand new. And the reason for that is every Catacombs box that has been sold has got another core rulebook in it, and that core rulebook has not changed. There's no changes from the original one that came out to the current one, which is the one that came out with Catacombs. So that's the bare minimum. Obviously, you'll need some models to play with. So you've got two options there. There's number one, if you've got some Age of Sigmar models already, you can use those along with one of these books to get them into the game. Or you can go out and buy a Warcry warband. Those retail at around about the £30 mark, but again, you can get them discounted from other places. Inside those warband boxes, you will get the models you need for that warband, plus a deck of cards. Those deck of cards will be enough cards to get on and play with that warband. It will not feature the number of cards available for the entire warband. So for example, in the Agents of Chaos book, this involves all of the different Chaos warbands that are available. So for example, the Skaven Chaos box, if you go and buy that, it won't feature all of the cards featured in here, because obviously there's a lot here. However, it will give you enough to get on and start playing the game. However, if you were to buy a warband specific to Warcry, so such as the Cypher Lords, you will only get the cards for that warband. So no new models have been brought out for the Cypher Lords, so you will only get the cards associated that are in this book as well. So bare minimum, you need a core book and you need some models to play with. And like I say, if you've got models already, go with one of these books or buy a warband box. So that's a sort of entry level of around about, if you go for two of these books, that's between £40 and £45. Or if you go with a core book and a warband, that's around about £55. But obviously you can save money on Warcry core books with eBay. Now, if you definitely want to get into Warcry, but you don't have any Age of Sigmar models or anything like that, the best place for me to start, I would tell you to go ahead and buy Catacombs. So if you think you're going to like it and you just want to get in and start playing, I would start with Catacombs, because it gives you two warbands, it gives you the dice, it gives you your core book and your Catacombs book, it gives you terrain to play with. So it gives you some terrain for the Sigmarite ruins, and it will also give you the Catacombs terrain. It will also give you some tokens and that kind of thing as well. So that's the best place to start, unless you can get, for a decent price, the original Warcry core box. What that has is everything that Catacombs has got, except for this book and Catacombs Terrain. It's got two warbands. It's got all of the battle plan cards. Is they substitute some of the information you're given here. So for example, there is some, so we've got victory conditions here, and you roll a d6 to decide which one it is. Whereas with the battle plan cards, there's a deck of cards that will just show you what one to use. And there's a lot more range than there is in the book. It also does the same for deployment, what they call twist cards. So when you know what you need to do to be victorious in a game, you know where you're going to deploy, it will throw into the mix something different. And it also has cards that will show you how to set up the terrain that comes in that box as well. Now those are very, very interesting, and it's important that if you can get that core box, that you do try and get it, or at least the Catacombs terrain, which comes with some of those Sigmarite ruins. Because if you choose to expand your terrain in the future there's ones for Shattered Storm Vault, there's one for the Sigmarite Mausoleum, and there's another few as well. They each come with a battle plan deck, which is again showing you how to set up that terrain. Now that deck has got about 50 cards in it, and 50% of those cards use terrain from the core box. Okay, so if you've already got some Age of Sigmar models and you've already got some terrain, then I suggest that you pick up a core book, a Grand Alliance book which matches whichever models you've got, and either the Tome of Champions 2019 or 2020. Both of them are very, very good, and they've both got lots of information. They've both got separate large-ranging campaigns. It's got post-campaign missions and all that kind of thing. But one of the main things that both books has is it has a terrain generator. So if you're using your own terrain, it will give you a table you can roll on, which shows you how to set that up on the battlefield, instead of using the cards from the core box or the or some of the terrain setups, which is featured in the Catacombs book. The main difference between the Tome of Champions 2019 and 2020 is that both feature a main campaign in there, which are totally different. The Tome of Champions 2019 features a lot of the cards for different warbands. So, for example, Daughters of Cain. However, all of this stuff is now in these books anyway. And they also feature a way of something else that's in the core box, is that you get a number of models there for what are called chaotic beasts. And what those chaotic beasts are, models that are set up on the battlefield that can be used as a perk to some players, or an additional way to try and get into the fight. And those feature on the twist cards, which I mentioned earlier. Now, the chaotic beasts that come in the core book, there's two types. You can buy them separately, or in the Tome of Champions, it shows you how you can add in two different types. And so it has got roaming beasts, wild cave creatures, which features squigs and troggoths, or restless undead, which features a whole host of legions of the Gash models and a couple of Nighthaunt. So you can effectively replace chaotic beasts with those. If you've only got a Age of Sigmar army and you haven't got anything else, so you've got no terrain or anything like that, then get yourself a core book, the Grand Alliance book that goes with it, and see if you can pick up one of the terrain sets. Because again, that will have those cards in there which you can use for easy setup. Alternatively, because the core book, one of these Grand Alliance books, and that terrain box is quite expensive, you're almost getting up to the same amount of money as it would cost to go and buy Catacombs. So then if you do that, you get the core book already, you already get two other warbands to play with, you just miss out on being able to play with the models you've already got. But because the costs are fairly close, so for example, if you buy the two books and maybe the Defiled Ruins or Shattered Storm Vault, that will cost you between 95 and £100. Alternatively, you can get Catacombs for 125 and you get a lot more in it. So you may decide to do that. If money is no object, I would say pick up the core book, core box, if you can get it, or Catacombs. Any of the Ravaged Lands box sets, so those Terrains box sets, because I do think they're good. I'd get both Tome of Champions because the campaigns are great. And I think about getting the Battle Pan cards. So they're a tenner for that pack. I think about getting those as well. So if you've got money to burn on this, I would get those because you're going to get a lot of gameplay out of it. Now, in terms of if you've got some Warcry stuff and you're thinking about expanding, getting out there further, and what you're going to get, what's going to come next, there's a few things that I would consider getting. So I would consider getting some Battle Plan cards, which I just mentioned a minute ago. I'd also consider looking online and seeing if you can get some Mortal Realms issues. Now, Mortal Realms is a magazine which is out in the UK and a number of other countries around the world. Very, very sorry, America, you're not part of it. And what that does is it allows you to collect a couple of armies over the issues that come out. It's across 80 issues and they are £7.99 in the UK. And one of the main things that they have is they have Warcry Terrain. And specifically they have Warcry Terrain that is from the original core book, which isn't available anywhere else. So you can't get it from, it's not in Catacombs, so it features some of that other stuff. So you can pick up that there, and that's got a large sprue of terrain for that £7.99. I would consider, if you've just got the core book and Catacombs book, I would definitely consider upping to one of the Tome of Champions books. As far as I'm concerned, they are both as good as each other. So whichever one you can get, I would go for it. Perhaps 2019, because it's probably going to be out of print and probably won't be reprinted. I would also consider getting one of these Grand Alliance books if you haven't got one already, because if you have got the card packs that you're using, it won't feature all of the models that you could feature in your warband. So it's well worth getting one of those to crack on with that. And the last thing I'd consider getting is a box of Chaotic Beasts. So the Chaotic Beasts that came out from the original core book, I'd consider getting a box of those because they are really very, very good. And then when you go and buy battle plan cards, it will feature the twist cards that get them into the game, and they are they do make a good difference. They're very cool. Now, in terms of things to not buy, so what would I advise you not to get? So, for example, the card packs that came out for warbands, I would advise you not to get them because they have been superseded by the information in these books. So if you can buy those, I think you can buy them for about £6. I wouldn't bother. I think you'd be better off paying a bit more money and getting one of these books. There's various websites, I'll stick a link in the description, where you can use the information from these books to create your own cards if you want them. But certainly I wouldn't spend any money on the cards at this stage because you would have an incomplete warband. I also wouldn't personally bother with monsters and mercenaries at this stage. So for example, in this book it will show you how to get various monsters into the battle. However, that has now been replaced by the information in these books. So for example, in the Agents of Chaos books, some of the first things that we see are some of the monsters that can be added in. So for example, for Chaos, it gives the Chimera and a Slaughter Brute. Chaos Gorgon, Cygor, Mutalith, Vortex Beast. So all of the information that was in there for monsters now features in this book. And it also features the rules of how to use monsters in the battle as well. So all the rules and that kind of thing that are required are in these books. Also, with the mercenaries in this book, there is a list of a lot of them. However, if there are any leaders for any warbands that you wanted to include in yours, so for example, if I wanted to pick a leader from the Skaven and I could pick a Warlock Bombardier, because it's got that leader rune mark, I could include it as an ally into my other warband. It wouldn't have to be Skaven. As well as if any of them have the Thrall rune mark, which is one that looks like a spiky collar, I can also include them there as well. So I would put this at the bottom of the priority list, below Tome of Champions, just because most of the information is actually replicated in the Grand Alliance books. Having said that though, there are a number of campaigns and missions and that in here, so it is not without value, but I would value it less than the other books. The other thing I would suggest that maybe you don't get is the Warcry dice. Now, I don't know why I'm saying that. It's a bit hypocritical because I got them all. And as nice as they are, they don't give anything new to the game, obviously. However, I would say, reminder that the core book and Catacombs feature a full set of the actual Warcry dice, which are very nice. So that's it. I hope you found that helpful. There is a lot of information in here. You don't need all of it. Let me just rank what I think is most important. So I would say, most important is the core book. And I include in that the Catacombs book, if you choose to get Catacombs. Next one is if you're using Age of Sigmar models, one of the Grand Alliance books. Next, I would honestly choose whichever one you like. Go for either of the Tome of Champions books. They had a great campaign, both of them, and they both pushed the game forward in their own way. But they are as good as each other. If you can get Monsters and Mercenaries, it is worth a look. It's probably the least important of all the publications. For me, please, if you disagree, comments down below, because I'd like to hear your perspective. Maybe I'm missing something in this book which I value less than everyone else. And then the other books are just the rest of the Grand Alliance books. So that, for me, is the order of which to go in. Now, in terms of one thing that I don't play a lot of, but which is good about Monsters and Mercenaries, but again, the information is held in the Agents of Chaos book, is that there are some models available which are treated as allies. And those are the Fomoroid Crusher, the Ogroid Myrmidon, and the Mind Stealer Sphyrax. Now those are all great models. You don't have to have them at all, but they're pretty cool to have. They're all fairly good in Age of Sigmar as well if you have a Chaos army. But that's it. So I have been working for a very long time on a tier list for all of the warbands available to Warcry, of which I believe there's around about 50 now. Now I was close to finishing it before these books came out. And now all of a sudden, I've got hundreds more models to add into that tier list. But the very good thing is that it has really mixed things up. So some warbands which were weak before are very strong now. Some warbands that had specific weakness in terms of maybe movement and that kind of thing have been addressed as well. So these books have made a significant difference. I have to say that I do find it annoying that we've got a game that is currently, at the time of recording this, only 17 months old, and already we have inflated the literature to a whopping 9 books, of which 5 of them are about rules and ways to play the game. I was really surprised that when the core book came out originally, Monsters and Mercenary was out, I think, within 2 months, and then the first Tome of Champions, this one, was out about a month after that. So I was really surprised at how quickly things were coming through. But anyway, it is all good stuff, but I can totally understand why new players be very confused about where to start and where to go with it. So I'm just at the editing stage, and I just realised something that's really important, which I didn't include in the video when I recorded it. All of the books that have come out subsequently since the original book was released are not required for you to enjoy this game. They are all very good, and they all add various different additions to the gameplay, but you don't need any of them. You can enjoy this game perfectly, and it is an excellent game just with that core book. So I would start with that if you're not sure, and then bleed into the rest of the game and buy the other books when you feel the need to. So I hope that information has been helpful. I'll be back soon with tiered lists and all that kind of thing. If anyone has got a favourite warband, let me know, because I will be doing reviews of every single warband. I might try and do one a week, and then that means that I'll cover every single warband in 2021. But if anyone's got a favourite and they want me to focus on that first, do let me know and I will do it. My next one is, I have promised one for Ironjaws. So I did a previous review for Ironjaws, but it was just the Warcry box that came out. But obviously they've got some new models in there. This is unpainted, but there's a mega boss. He's part of their warbands now as well. As is the Weird Knob Shaman. So they are due an upgraded review to look at all of their Grand Alliance book stuff. So that was requested a few weeks ago, and so that will be the first one I do. But if anyone's got a favourite warband, let me know. I will do it in the order that you ask it for. So I hope that was helpful. If it was and you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. I am looking to try and grow the channel. I've got a number of hobby projects coming out soon, and I'll be launching my Patreon at the end of this month as well. So for my hobby projects, I could produce templates and that kind of thing. So Patreon members will get access to all of those going forward. There is links in the description to Goblin Gaming and Element Games. So if you use those to purchase any Games Workshop products whatsoever, it won't cost you a penny more, but it will really help me out. I'll get a small kickback on it. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Much appreciated. Look after yourselves and take care and keep safe.